Good afternoon. Welcome to Techbytes. I'm Bruce, and this presentation demonstrates a new well plug and abandonment innovation. SPE's only given us 5 minutes, so let's start with the thank yous first. Firstly, we would like to thank the taxpayers for funding this work. Thanks also go to Centrica, which is now Spirit Energy, ConocoPhillips UK, soon to become Chrysor, and EnQuest for donating tubulars. HireTech, a local Scottish company, were instrumental in safely and successfully carrying out real-scale experiments only a few miles from here. Also, thanks to the University of Glasgow, who mathematically modeled tubular compaction technology. Finally, thanks also go to the 2 technology centers who coordinated funding and monitored the 2 projects. In a nutshell, the aforementioned organizations and you as taxpayers successfully demonstrated the viability of compacting one piece of tubing into another, as shown here. While this may not seem particularly complex or exciting, as I will explain in the next slide, tubing compaction can save billions in oil company cost and government tax revenue. Tubing compaction is not rocket science. Tubing compaction is very simple and it works. Cut a target piece of tubing along its length, and then cut a spare piece of tubing that is pushed between the 2 halves of the target tubing. The space created by pushing one piece of tubing into another is then used to log the cement behind the casing and place a cement plug that meets all oil and gas UK requirements. Combining the method of tubing compaction with conventional well intervention, shown on the left, can remove the need to use a drilling rig, shown on the right. Tubing interferes with cement bond logging and placing an abandonment plug in the surrounding casing. Tubing compaction removes tubing interference by pushing one piece of tubing into another, whereas a drilling rig pulls all of the tubing out of the well. It's easy to see that fewer people and no pipe handling exposure to normally occurring radioactive materials, resulting from oil and gas production, is safer, lower cost, and more environmentally friendly. Oil companies can save billions in lower well plugging costs. Instead of paying billions to drilling rig owners, oil companies would pay taxes on the cost savings that could be used for public benefit. So you see, validating and further developing tubing compaction can be worthwhile for both the oil companies and taxpayers who funded this work. While the method itself appears relatively simple, compaction analysis is more complex. The University of Glasgow used state-of-the-art software to explicitly solve the model equations. While a tubing spear can initially be compacted between 2 cut halves of a target tubular, as previously shown, eventually significant bending will occur. The university was able to model the very complex patterns of bending compaction and validate the model associated with downhole application. An inflatable packer can be used as a compaction piston, with pump pressure across the piston area applying the compaction force. Compaction force is resisted by the material bending force of the tubing and the opposing overburden fluid injection pressure across the lower area of the piston. When the compaction force is greater than the resisting tubing and injection forces, tubulars are compacted to create a space for cement bond logging and plug placement. Real scale tests were limited to about 5,000 psi or 350 bar, and as shown on the right, enough compaction force was available to substantially compact the North Sea tubulars. In fact, the tubular on the lower right was retrieved from a ConocoPhillips well before it was crushed in the experiments. The University of Glasgow compared their small-scale physical and computer models to real-scale model results to validate that tubing compaction is indeed a viable method. The 5 minutes that SPE allocated our presentation has almost elapsed. If we can compact North Sea tubing on a shoestring budget with a rubber cement wiper plug, what could the oil and gas industry accomplish with all its resources? If you want to be safer, save money, and be more environmentally friendly, participate in bringing this method into use. Alternatively, continue using drilling rigs and nothing will change. Thank you for taking the time to listen to how we invested your donations and tax money.